Shannon and Swift, please remember those names, folks, because Damien Shannon and Mark Swift, they are the screenwriters that were responsible for Freddy vs. Jason, which is an all-time spooky season rewatch for many, many people. You talk about a hybrid film, they did it right, and it's all due to those two guys. They also did Friday the 13th. They remade that for Marcus Nispel. They wrote Baywatch, which I don't care what people say. Fucking love that movie with Zac Efron and Dwayne Johnson. But Shannon and Swift, they are poised to be on everybody's lips because they have written the new Sam Raimi, Send Help. Have you seen the trailers for this?
Yeah, looks solid.
Starring Rachel McAdams and our guy Dylan O'Brien. If you haven't seen the trailers yet, it's Sam Raimi's first feature in a while, and Shannon and Swift wrote it, and I just saw the trailer before this. Wow, just wow.
Hey, you want to watch some TV or something?
Skip it. Well, I'm getting ready to watch a video.
Really? What?
Nothing but foul language and toilet humor.
I'm disgusted and repulsed and I can't look away.
I need these things! I need these things! Tell me, do you want to go? We're stopping on the color line. Oh, no way, Jose. This just in, go to hell!
This conversation can serve no purpose anymore.
Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
Hello, friends and listeners. You got a new episode of Watch Skip Plus. We are the movie review podcast with a lifestyle twist. That means after we review a new streaming or theatrical film, we're going to give you a bonus review that can be on anything. We've done horror films as our pluses. That's been a spooky season kind of thing. But first, let me introduce my co-host, Mike, the WillDaBeast. I'm Jose, also known as Cupcake. Please be sure to like and subscribe, especially subscribe. We're trying to boost our subscribers by 2026. So even if you just listen on Spotify, hop on the YouTube and subscribe. Or even if you watch YouTube, hop on the Spotify and hit subscribe. Who knows? Maybe we'll end up on this Spotify, Netflix, podcasts on Netflix thing. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Mike, how are you doing this week?
Doing great. I actually have been not doing a whole lot of horror movie watching. I've only done a few. I've been doing a lot of repairs around the house. We got some new furniture in. We had a bunch of holes downstairs in the basement from where the kids, that's kind of where they realm. So, and the kid moved out with the cat. So we're just patching holes. Got to get some paint on those walls. And one of our listeners is coming to my town and we're going to host him. And everyone pretty much knows I'm from Utah. I talk about it all the time. Halloween 4, 5, and 6 were filmed here. And he loves 4, so he wants to come and see some of the, Laurie Strode's house and stuff. So that's all here in Salt Lake City. So we're going to go and do an old school trick-or-treating in my neighborhood. It's awesome. So we're excited.
Nice. And your hat, what does it say on there? Crypt of
TV's Kinderfanger. My wife worked on it. It's a film by Crypt TV, which was I think it used to be started as a YouTube channel, and I thought they were part of Roku or something. But it's a film. Came out in 2023, I think. It's based off of an old German folk tale. They also did one that was based off of a tooth fairy. So just a whole bunch of old classic fairy tales. So
interesting. And lo and behold, we actually have a horror movie to review this week.
We are reviewing Shelby Oaks, directed by Chris Stuckmann, a YouTuber who kind of got his start reviewing films directly on YouTube, not as a podcast format, but strictly just to come in and drop a quick film review. Shelby Oaks is his first film. I've been super excited. I've watched some of his reviews, and once he kind of mentioned he was making this movie, I've been watching and I kind of poked and prodded you to watch this. There's other things I'm sure you probably wanted to watch. But
this was your Tron legacy for me.
Yeah, this was me
or Tron Ares, sorry.
Forcing something down your throat a little bit. So
a little bit. Well, let's dive below the line. You mentioned Chris Stuckmann.
Yeah.
You mentioned Chris Stuckmann. What do you think of his reviews? What do you think?
Yeah, I think he's interesting. Sometimes I'm like, he's overanalyzes things, and other times I think and as we'll get into the film, I think that he kind of applauds tropes. Like he likes film as a comfort food type of thing, and I think that you'll notice that a lot.
Yeah.
I like his videos okay. And there was a video he did a while ago about him coming out of Jehovah Witness, that someone who was an ex-Mormon person who kind of like hit close to home to me. I was like, wow, that was pretty intense. He did a whole like hour-long spiel about how hard it was to come out, and he's been trying to write and getting ready to direct a film about that occult stuff.
The Jehovah's Witness horror.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you are correct. He does a movie review YouTube channel. I guess since we come from the podcast world, you and I don't necessarily conform to like what a YouTube clip normally is like. So like all of his movie reviews have been less than like 10 minutes. He was one of the first to start a movie review channel on YouTube back in 2009. 2 million subscribers. I hope to get to 200, but he's got 2 million subscribers, 779 million views. That's crazy. He's a member of the Critics' Choice Association. He didn't always review movies. He did review, say, anime, TV show, video games.
When he was a kid,
what else do you know? Yeah, what else do you know about Stuckmann? Are you familiar with any of his other work?
The only thing that I know of is that he was kind of a protege of Mike Flanagan. He basically did a review of Oculus, and Flanagan like reached out to him. It was like, "Yo, thanks for that review." And he's even mentioned in interviews like you don't usually do that, but Chris seemed like this kind of guy that I felt like I could like really get to know.
Well, interestingly enough, he's actually written 2 books. In 2016, he wrote The Film Buff's Bucket List, the 50 movies of the 2000s to see before you die. And then 2018, he wrote Anime Impact, the movies and shows that changed the world of Japanese animation. So you mentioned the Jehovah's Witness deal. I think his wife, Samantha Elizabeth, who is also a co-writer on this film, I think they both kind of came out of that. He also came out as pansexual, which I thought was kind of interesting. Currently partnered to a woman, so the Sam is a Samantha, not a man. And he has 2 twins. And this makes me feel super effing old. He says that when he saw Signs in 2002 as a child, that inspired him to be a filmmaker. And I was like, in 2002, I was being an idiot trying to pass the bar and become a lawyer.
He was a kid. He loves tropes. He loves movies that are tropey like that. And if you watch his review, he loves these kind of almost comfort film. And that's why he loves people like Steven Spielberg and even Mike Flanagan, who's very predictable in what he does with his films.
What's interesting is that he actually made a video saying that because he wanted to get into filmmaking, that he was going to stop being hard on films and talking about how terrible they are, which I don't know, if you're part of a critics association, that's your job. Okay. I mean, I had said before in the show that I refuse to officially review anything directed by Patrick Lussier or written by Todd Farmer because I've had some interactions with them on Facebook, and you and I, we know people who work in the industry, but that's not going to stop me from critiquing a film,
I think he just changed the way he's kind of like our friend John does, for example. He tries to pick films that he would rather champion or cheerlead than he would just review everything that comes out. And that's kind of what Chris has started doing, is only reviewing things that he really wants to champion. So, I mean, it's okay. It's just a different way of doing things than he used to.
It is. It's a different way. And I don't know. I love film so much. I wish they would pay me to just see whatever, because I'll watch it and I'll give you a review. Okay.
Nobody gets paid just to watch movies anymore, though. Like that was the myth. I know people who are film critics, and they're like, that's one of like 5 different things we do to try to like put food on the table.
I think we grew up in the wrong time and we chose the wrong format and whatever. Anyway, moving on. Okay. And notable producers here are Intrepid Pictures. That's Mike Flanagan's outfit that he founded with 2 other creatives. Also, Paper Street Pictures. That's founded and run by Aaron Kuntz. Koontz. I don't know if he's related to Dean Koontz, sort of, Stephen King light. Sorry, that's not a slight. Like,
I don't think he is, but yeah.
I mean, he's kind of, when we whisper about like horror writers, Dean Koontz comes up with Stephen King and Peter Straub and all those other horror writers. I'm sure I'm forgetting people. Sure, flood the comments and tell me I'm an idiot. Okay, so, Aaron Kuntz, we know him as the writer and director of the films The Pale Door, as well as the 2 Scare Package films, and he's a producer of noted horror and genre projects. We've got, our music is by Jeff Burkholder and the Newton Brothers. The Newton Brothers should sound very familiar. They have scored practically everything by Mike Flanagan, starting from Oculus onward. So the haunting Netflix shows, that's Hill House and then Bly Manor. The other series was called Midnight Mass. Yes. The brothers are actually named John Andrew Grush and Taylor Newton Stewart. They're not related. We talked about them on Five Nights at Freddy's, our Watch Skip Plus review episode. So if you want to hear a little bit more about them, you can definitely check that out. They are accomplished musicians and they apprentice under Hans Zimmer. Interesting fact. And recently scored Daredevil Born Again and then this film called Werewolves. Have you seen this?
Yes, I love it. It's great. It came out last Christmas with Frank Grillo.
Yeah, I actually kind of love it too. I had actually gone to the theater to see it, and I was like, this is direct to cable nonsense, and I love it. Give me a sequel.
If we would have been on the show, I would have forced us to review that. By the way,
oh yeah,
we would have reviewed it.
So I think it was a choice. I think we just didn't know. I think Alex, I maybe just didn't know what it was, or
you ended up going with hoity-toity stuff, like you ended the show with Gladiator and Wicked or whatever. That's not what you ended up, I think, with.
Gladiator 2. God damn it. Jeff Burkholder. Jeff Burkholder has worked in the music department on a number of television shows. Goosebumps, Walking Dead, Joe Pickett. This is one of his first big scores. Our DP is Andrew Scott Baird. He has a long association with Paper Street Pictures because he was the DP for the Scare Package films, as well as a movie that I happened to catch on streaming called Blood Relatives. This is written and directed by actor, I think he's a comedian too, Noah Segan, Segan. I saw the poster. I thought he was gorgeous, and I was like, why not? But it's an interesting little indie thriller about a vampire who meets with a woman who is like, hey, I'm your daughter. And it just goes from there. And I liked it a lot. I kind of dug it. I should note that Mr. Baird shares several duties on this movie as well. I believe he helped with the visual effects, cinematography. He did some of the editing, and he even was the colorist for the film. I was like, okay, Scott Baird, you go. This is wow, many hats. All right, so before we dive into the cast, I just want to talk just a tiny bit about some of the behind the scenes for this.
Yeah.
Because I think it's as interesting as the film itself. Stuckmann had announced his intentions to potentially be a filmmaker, and he ended up signing with a production and television company in 2021 and announced this project. Unfortunately, in 2021, the production was delayed because they ran out of funding, and then there was an IATSE strike, IATSE. It's the Hollywood Industry Union. And then a writer's strike, etc. And so they paused production until 2022. So almost a year later or so, they ended up receiving a little more funding. It still wasn't enough. So they actually did a Kickstarter campaign and people contributed to it. Now, I'm hearing that Kickstarter campaign, which, by the way, at the end of this film, every name that contributed to it is on the credits for this film. That's why the credits at the end rolling up, it's like 18 minutes long. It's crazy. I should also note there are so many executive producers and producers on this.
Oh yeah,
it made my head spin actually.
1.39 million on that Kickstarter campaign. I think it was the biggest for any independent horror film ever.
So this is weird. Some put the tally for the Kickstarter at 650,000. But the ultimate raising of the sort of like self-started Kickstarter stuff ultimately was 1.5 million in addition to the stuff that they had. So the budget for this is around 2 to 3 million, and it's what allowed Stuckmann apparently to put the movie out in the way that he wanted to, his vision. In 2024, Intrepid Pictures stepped in. That's Mike Flanagan.
Yep.
Now, before we get into Tobe Hooper versus Steven Spielberg on Poltergeist vibes, my understanding is that Flanagan provided notes and feedback on the film. And, and gave him industry connections. Flanagan said that Stuckmann reminded him of himself as a filmmaker when he was working on Absentia and all the sort of hurdles that he was going through. So he wanted to sort of ease the process.
He wouldn't have got, this movie wouldn't have got bought by Neon if it wasn't for, we all know that. I mean, that name got, kind of solidified things from the initial release of the film in 2024 with what we were told was kind of a messy ending, right? Not quite finished.
Yeah, I mean, Flanagan's not the only big name that kind of helped out Stuckmann. So we should mention that in post-production, filmmakers David F. Sandberg, Lights Out, Sev Ohanian, I believe he was a writer on some thrillers, and Scott Beck and Brian Woods, they did the Quiet Place series. They actually gave notes after watching a rough cut as well and helped to sort of shape these things. In July 2024, Neon acquired the worldwide distribution rights, but it didn't stop there. As you mentioned, there were some reshoots, and they also hired a gentleman named Brett W. Bachman to come on and re-edit the film. We're going to talk about this because I read a quote from Bachman about his addition to the edits of this, and I think it made the movie weaker. What's interesting about film is that it's subjective. What didn't work for me was what Bachman thought made the film incredible. And I was like, no, but we'll get to that. This premiered at the 28th Fantasia Fest, and then it was picked up July 2024. It's curious that it took so long to get it released, right? For something that's a micro budget.
Well, they knew it was not releasable, right? Because he ran out of money, and he put this together for this festival to kind of like get money to finish it, because they knew that what they had put on screen wasn't what he wanted, because they ran out of
previewed it.
Yeah, they ran out of money while they were filming. They didn't get everything in the can, so he kind of started cutting his script up, and so a lot of it was the ending and then stuff in the middle to kind of bridge the different styles, which we'll talk more into detail. But yeah, so he got more money to actually finish it, and you could tell, which we'll talk about.
I would hear this talk as a seasoned Sundance contributor, basically, or attendee, right? That's what these kinds of festivals were for. It was kind of a way for directors to workshop their pictures and then talk to people afterwards and talk to the distributors. But I think that, I'm not dogging Sundance, but it kind of became a thing where finished products were reviewed there or were premiered there. You know what I mean? Versus something like this in the past where I'd always heard, well, what we saw at Sundance was completely different from what was, in a theatrical version. That seems to have staved off from decades ago,
And that was what made this so cool, is it was kind of old school. Like, he threw it out there for this festival, and then they came in and gave him an extra $500,000 in 3 days to kind of get reshoots and pump it up, which again, I think it's because of Flanagan. It's because of his community. He's created these connections of people whose films he's championed, and again, who've kind of become on his side, which you can debate whether or not that's, ethical or not. But I think getting in, championing the directors that you like and then having them champion your first film, I don't know if there's anything necessarily wrong with that.
I like that, though. It feels, you know what it feels like? It feels like community outside of the studio system.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it is.
That's really important. I think that's really important. But you're right. I'm like, oh, what was his review like of their film? All right, let's dive into this cast. Relative unknowns. Let me just start with some of the familiar faces that you are going to see. I'm going to start with somebody I've been in love with for forever. The actor's name is Brandon Sexton III. He started acting in 1995 for Todd Solondz's Welcome to the Dollhouse. We know him as the shoplifter from Empire Records. And unfortunately, since then, he would crop up in Boys Don't Cry. That was Kimberly Pierce's great film. Session 9, Black Hawk Down. But these were all like little smaller roles. Recently, I mean, he's been a working actor, so I'm sure he's not complaining. So many may know him from The Killing. That was in 2011 to 2012. He recently cropped up on Russian Doll. And then Ballard, which is the Maggie Q Amazon Prime show as well. So he's a familiar face. He's not in this as much, but I love him. What do you think of Sexton?
He's a solid character actor, and I like when he pops up. So he can really take whatever, you know, bit he has and elevate it. So yeah, it's awesome that they were able to get someone, you know, of that realm.
Yeah. Speaking of awesome and noted character actor, we've got Keith David, classically trained actor, 3 Emmys. He's been on television. He's been in the movies, so many credits. When I say Keith David, what are the movies you think of?
Well, The Thing. That's the first.
Yes.
The first. I mean, all the stuff with Carpenter, that's just where you go. Yeah, those are directly where I go. But remember when I did Fan X, we actually brought up Keith David versus David Keith on our character actor.
I know.
And we asked, like, wrote this movie and who was it, Keith David or David Keith? And they had to choose, the audience had to choose who was in what. That was a lot of fun.
Which is super funny because obviously they're different races. And they look completely different, but you're right. The fact that they transpose their names, it's kind of like, okay, which one again? Was David Keith in The Thing? No, David Keith was in Firestarter. Okay, yeah, it's kind of funny, but he's been in everything. Voice actor, you know, Gargoyles, Adventure Time, Rick and Morty, Spawn. He voiced Terry in Spawn, and then film and television, just everywhere. The Princess and the Frog, Requiem for a Dream. So we love Keith David. He's the best. I adore him, and he's got that singular voice. I wish my voice was that deep. God damn it.
He has a really unique voice.
Yeah, absolutely, he does. The other person I'm going to note, again, another noted Black actor, Michael Beach. He's been in a lot of television and stuff. I know him from Bad Company, which was that movie with Lawrence Fishburne and Ellen Barkin, which I love. It's so tawdry and crazy and powerful. I love that movie. But he was in The Abyss. He's been in everything. Waiting to Exhale, all these television shows. He's still making a run of it. He's been a main character on Mayor of Kingstown and Tulsa King. He was in The Perfect Couple. Love this guy. Love Michael Beach as an actor. What do you think?
Yeah, recently he was in Saw X. That's what I remember him recently on. But yeah, he's good in everything. Again, solid character actor. And I love that you could tell this is a movie made by someone who loves film and picked these like character actors as their kind of lead things. I love that.
All right, arguably our lead is going to be Camille Sullivan. I don't know that U.S. audiences would necessarily know her unless they caught some of these Canadian television series which seem to come through on streaming. But if you go to her IMDb page, she has been nominated over and over and over for Canadian television shows. She's had a ton of Leo Awards. So the Leo Awards are kind of like the British Vancouver Film and Movie Industry Awards, and then a Gemini Award, which is basically like Canadian Emmys. So she's really good. And, not to tip my hat, but she's really, really strong in this. Recently, she was in a film with Devon Sawa because I'm obsessed with Devon Sawa, and I follow him a lot. But Hunter x Hunter was a movie that she was in 2020 with Devon Sawa. She's really, really good in that. What did you think of Camille Sullivan?
I thought she was really fucking good in this. And I don't know if I've ever really recognized her in anything else. That, looking through the list, it looks like I've seen her in a couple things, but bits. But I thought she was really good.
some of these nominated movies that she's been in, like I've seen the posters on streaming. So
Yeah.
she got a Leo for The Lost Daughter. I've seen that poster. Exile was another one she was nominated for. I've seen that poster. I've just never dove in, right?
Yeah.
But she's great. Next up we have Sarah Dunn, or Dern, sorry, Durn, like burn with a D, not Dern like Laura Dern. But she's a really sort of like sweet girl next door kind of look. Reminds me of like Malin Ackerman, although Malin Ackerman's Swedish or whatever. But I really kind of dug her in this, although I've not really seen her in things. I don't think she has like big feature roles, but she was in Where the Crawdads Sing, and then recently on Carry On, in smaller roles. We should mention that she was part of the sort of viral YouTube campaign where they showed some of the paranormal show within show that's in this movie. It was part of like a marketing campaign a la Blair Witch Project before this movie came out. And he actually recast her in this film when he was, releasing those sort of like mini marketing clips.
That's awesome.
Sarah Dern, you have any thoughts on her?
I thought she was solid. Again, I didn't recognize her in all these movies that she had small bits in it. But I'm definitely going to keep an eye on it for now because, yeah, I thought she was pretty solid in this.
Two other actors I'm going to spotlight. Robin Bartlett, speaking of unrecognizable, she plays I don't know, not to spoil it, but someone Camille Sullivan encounters. We'll just leave it at that. But I remember looking at her, and then underneath all that makeup, I leaned over to Scooter and I said, "You know who that is? That's the woman from Dangerous Minds who tells Michelle Pfeiffer, you could teach them something other than we must die." Do you remember her?
Yeah, and I recognize her from some little bit roles, but yes, I do remember her in that.
So you mentioned little bit roles. She is kind of a character actress. She's shown up in
for sure.
a bunch of smaller film roles, and then mostly television is where she's worked. But they loved her as a teacher apparently because she was also in Lean on Me, playing another teacher. So it's kind of like, okay, girl, okay, do your thing. And then the last person I want to mention, you will not see him on screen, but I'm going to characterize him as an actor, stuntman, and then a visual effects actor, or maybe we can call him an effects actor. And I'm talking about Derek Mears. I love it. On IMDb, his trademarks are towering height, he's 6'5", and bald head. If you've seen a picture of Derek Mears, you know who I'm talking about. I think he's really sexy. But the reason why I call him a creature effects or a VFX actor is he played Swamp Thing in the television series on the CW that lasted only one season. He was one of like the cyborg killers in Alita Battle Angel. And then, of course, he played Jason in the Shannon and Swift remake of Friday the 13th. So Derek Mears, love him to death. He plays, we'll get to it, who he plays. But I kind of was like, ooh, nice body.
Yeah, let's get to the spoiler free before we get there.
Yeah. So anyway, okay, here we go. So we're gonna go to spoiler free thoughts.
Yeah.
You're obviously very excited and you forced this upon me. So why don't you start?
But yeah, Shelby Oaks. So I've kind of been looking forward to this for a while. When I first heard that it was going to be mixing formats, basically a faux documentary with found footage, with a traditional mystery horror narrative. It doesn't ever try to like pretend that it is a 100% like faux documentary, but it does kind of trick people, right? Because you literally get thrown into that in the first like 15 minutes of it, and then you get the credits, and then we get this little introduction of what the film's actually about. So I think the framework of this film is probably what's going to be talked about the most, those different styles. And then that middle chunk turns into this classic like mystery horror thriller a la like The Ring. And I kind of liked it. I dug that slow pace. This is messy. It's chunky. It screams first time filmmaker, but I love this kind of shit. So I'm a fan. I did really dig this. It is not 100% successful. It is very much a hodgepodge of styles and types and tropes, and he very much loves, the films that he references, from the Blair Witch Project to Grave Encounters to, I mean, there's a list. From the Ring is huge in this. There's a huge list, and oh gosh, of course, David Lynch, Twin Peaks. That's like apparent. So there's just so many homages, and it's a film lover's film. It's homaging films that we as film lovers love, and if you enjoy that and you're okay with it kind of being derivative, but also in a loving way, it's not completely new, nothing that's done here, but it's put together and thrown together in a way that's different than what we've seen. And I was actually enthralled. It's one of these type of films that I would, normally kind of complain about being slow paced, maybe a little bit too long, but it felt an hour and a half, and it was an hour and a half, and it felt taut and tense. And then the third act has some issues. I think we kind of get to that point where he didn't know how to end the film. I've heard tons of rumors of what different cuts were, and the ending that we got was completely not was. It was interesting that they kind of tied in the whole documentary bit from the beginning. I heard that wasn't tied in at all. So people were confused, like, why did you have that in the beginning? So he ties that in a little bit in the end here. And it felt successful enough, but it is, and very much feels like something that is put together by that indie spirit, that hodgepodge, like listening to what other people are telling you to do, and also like sticking true to your what you want to do. And this was the closest thing to what he really wanted the film to be, blood, sweat, and tears, with all the different edits and all the different, For 2019 is actually when his first video was, I'm going to make a movie, guys. I've made the decision. I'm going to do it. I'm starting to write it with me and my wife. We're going to do this. And then he signed the deal a couple years later. And it's just been fun seeing this come to fruition. And this kind of dream does happen. And it is attainable. We look back at what people are doing. Look at the guy who made the Terrifier, the guy that, again, that independent spirit. What he did and what he's brought, and he's created a new horror icon. Do I think that Shelby Oaks is a new horror icon? No. But I think that Chris Stuckmann is on his way of making his classic, and it will come eventually. Warts and all, I'm a fan of this. If you do like The Ring, you do like kind of more mystery horror, you will have the patience to kind of sit through it. And it does kick off as a banger, man. When it kicks up, first 15 minutes, it's just beautiful. And I could get where some people lost, once the actual film narrative itself takes over, it does change gears, but it does turn into something that felt very comforting, very M. Night Shyamalan, very, again, all these names. Of
M. Night Shyamalan is comforting?
Yes, dude, you put on the Signs and all those films that he loved, they are comfort food to me at this point. And I get that's very much like he threw together all of his favorite little bits for a Thanksgiving feast to show thanks to horror film, basically.
Yeah.
So I like it. I'm going to give it a watch. Not a super 100% watch. It's for those of you who love horror film. If you're new to the genre, or you don't know Stuckmann, this might not be for you. But if you like horror films, give it a try. You may or may not like it. You might find it derivative. It worked for me, but I understand how people might think differently.
Yeah, so it's, for me, first of all, knowing that the person who has written and directed this has reviewed many, 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 many films, right?
Maybe in the 2000s, like a T kind of guy.
Yeah, but I mean, just having all of that knowledge, I was concerned that we were either going to get a Ryan Murphy hack, or we were going to possibly get a Quentin Tarantino, right? And so color me a little disappointed that it wasn't like this balls out wowzer of a debut, right? And I think that that can go either way. It can go, like I said, Quentin Tarantino, somebody who has this filmic knowledge and then has a really potent story, and then just throws his whole energy into that, with characters and visuals and things like that. You're right. It's not entirely successful. And unfortunately, it kind of went the other way, which was for me, which was here's a guy who's seen a ton of films and knows how to critique a film and is excellent. And that phrase that comes up, what is it? Those that can't do teach, or whatever, that awful backhanded
those who can't do teach.
yeah, whatever that awful fucking backhanded like I find that phrase kind of offensive, because there are people, that are good at teaching or good at being number two. They'll never be number one. They'll never be number one on the call sheet. They'll never be the director. And you know what? That's okay. That's totally fucking fine. Here, though, I was disappointed, because what I got, which you have mentioned, is a pastiche or a stitching of some really great creepy stuff from other movies that we've seen before. You mentioned a ton of comp films, comparable young audience members is what we're saying. In the trades, a comp film is usually the type of film, a genre film or whatever, and then the comparable box office competitor. But we're talking about a movie that a comp is a film that feels similar to this, and you nailed it. I mean, you can't introduce found footage without thinking up the Blair Witch Project. In much the same way that you can't do a possession film without thinking about The Exorcist. You can't do a sci-fi film starting a mythos without thinking about fucking Star Wars. Okay? You can't have somebody sleep with an alien without thinking about Star Trek and Kirk. So, I mean, with this, the problem was the found footage immediately makes me think of Blair Witch. And what's our first shot? I'm so scared. And I almost was like, oh, fuck you. Oh, fuck you.
I thought it was an obvious homage, but yes, fuck you could be.
But the problem with the obvious homage is that beginning that you thought was so strong. No, it
didn't
wasn't.
Work for you.
And so, this new editor that came in actually made the beginning with the found footage and all of that stuff in the documentary much longer. And his idea was he wanted to build the sense of dread. But when there's the shift to the traditional film storytelling and there's a different format, by the way, they shot on red. This looked beautiful. I don't like the red camera, but this look was really, really great. But when it switches to the film and suddenly you're in this new realm, you're not in found footage anymore. The problem that I had was what we just sat through, we get to see again. Why?
Yeah, because it had that Lake Mungo grave encounters vibe, which I was like, ooh, okay, this is going to be fucking good. But then it does do that switch, and you're like, wow.
At 95 minutes, I don't need to repeat what you just shoved down our throats.
For 15 minutes, yeah. I kind of get that.
Ridiculous. Also, you could have taken the documentary thing right out of this, and it wouldn't have mattered. None of it would have mattered. So, you are correct. First time filmmaker, that is, I'm whiffing it all over it, okay? I'm smelling its fingers and it's making me fart. And it is all first time filmmaker, okay?
You're smelling your fingers and it's making you fart.
Oh, sorry. Did I fuck that up? I'm sorry. That's my Filipino upbringing. I mixed up it's pull my finger and fart. And then, or smell my finger because I want you to join in my misery. Sorry about that. I fucked that up. Wow. Maybe that should be the teaser.
There it is.
Anyway, okay. So, but there's a really, really strong performance in here from Miss Sullivan. And she really anchors this. Do you, I think about this actress all the time because there are actresses that remind me of her. And then when this actual actress shows up, I'm like, that's her. But do you remember Julie Warner from Doc Hollywood and the Puppet Masters.
Yeah.
Camille Sullivan looks exactly like her. They can play
She does
sisters,
look like her.
okay? But there's something about that face structure of both of those actresses that just allows them to convey so much emotion. And, you know, so you mentioned Blair Witch, you mentioned The Ring, because, you know, there's a tape in here and studying the tape and it made me think of The Ring or whatever. But this also kind of made me think of The Vanishing, which I think,
yeah.
you know, which very much was kind of like, I'm trying to find my sister. And and you can see the things going on in her mind through her emotions. Like, you know, you can see the part where she's literally stealing herself because she has no idea what's going to happen. So she's like, okay, am I going to be like fighting for my life or what's going to happen around this corner? But I really thought we were going to get into this kind of like, do you want to see what happened to your sister? Well, you're going to suffer the same fate. And lo and behold, the ending is something completely different.
No, we'll kind of get there.
It's weird. I just don't know that I would have ever. Well, they do build some of that in there, so I was on to their tricks basically. But the problem is you know, we've seen a lot of this done better before. It's predictable, you know, but it's still a watch. It's still a watch for me because there is a lot of promise in Stuckmann's filmmaking powers.
Yeah.
I just wish that maybe there were a little too many cooks in the kitchen. And like you had mentioned, it is possible that with so many established filmmakers nattering in his ear, he listened to that versus being his own voice. But the parts where his own voice does kind of come and you see something new and something freaky, it's good. I'm waiting to see the next one, but this one, unfortunately, not entirely successful, but definitely a watch. There is a cop movie I want to mention, but it's going to ruin the third act. So we'll get to that in spoilers. But anyway, but yeah, I think I want to see a little bit more of Stuckmann. Also, he's hot. So there you go.
Yeah, he seems like a genuine lover of film, and as a genuine lover of film, I kind of respect what he did. Of course, I see all the same things that you said. I see a lot of that same mess, but the heart is there, and like wanting to put something out there that is an amalgamation of all the things that you love, kind of mixing all of these things, you know, from Hereditary to Paranormal Activity, you know, all these little bits of movies that I know that he's liked because I've watched him, and I could see like how he was thinking about you know, interpreting these things and putting them into his own film. So
you know what's interesting?
Who knows? It's kind of fun to watch, and it's a YouTuber thing. Unfortunately, it is. My kids have told me it's what do they call it? Some kind of YouTube vibe horror or something like that is what he kind of
TikTok horror.
Yeah, it's like kind of that lo-fi horror, is what the YouTube lo-fi horror. So it fills that kind of vibe to it.
Well, you know what's interesting? He's clearly like millennial filmmaker. You and I, Spielberg, Quentin Tarantino, those two took the references from when they were growing up, which is when we were growing up. Stuckmann is now this generation's Spielberg or QT or John Carpenter. Maybe.
Yeah. And he's celebrating these tropes in horror filmmaking. They're all there. Whether you know, you can take the tropes and you can enjoy them as an homage, or you can say, okay, that seems kind of cheap. Again, I felt that there was love. I felt that there was heart. I felt that this was something that had been cooking in his head for a long time. You know, there's little bits of the occult there from his Jehovah Witness upbringing. There's little bits of all the different types of horror films, and he's championed a lot of found footage stuff as well as more traditional mystery horror. And not the big gore. You know, there's not a lot of gore in this. It's not a gory movie by any means. But if you allow the film to kind of get you wrapped up into its creepy little blanket, I think it can work for you. But yeah, it isn't going to work for everybody. It is one of those movies where it's not. It's not.
But be warned, the shadow of Blair Witch rears its ugly head.
That beginning really does make you feel that. Just know that if you get it going into this. and it's not really a spoiler. It looks like the trailer makes you feel like you're seeing a Blair Witch type of ripoff, and I kind of thought that's what it was. And then when it switched gears, I was kind of mad at first because I was like, "This is how." I thought maybe they would do it as a recreations, but no, it's literally like this is a documentary of what's really the real movie. Boom, here's the real movie.
So that's what feels first-time filmmaking as well, is because that jump to actual like filmic narrative style, it's a little jarring.
It is a little jarring.
Had that found footage prologue had not been so long, I think we would have been on board with that jump to the filmic narrative.
That being long, and then that weird intro that starts with something happening that goes really into slow-mo, and then we get the credits. That was all reshoots. So
weirdly, that new editor, that's what he discussed. He was like, let's make that beginning longer. And I'm like, no, don't make it longer. We don't need it to be longer, especially when you're retreading the material as she's investigating. And I was just like, oh Lord, like we're gonna watch it.
But this is how indie horror films work. My wife just finished a movie called Rabisu last year.
What's it called?
Rabisu. And it just got picked up. It's going to be on Shudder. But it was one of those where like every day, like things kind of changed because everyone was kind of like collaborative filmmaking, and it's totally different than what he originally was going to make. But sometimes that's the indie spirit of it. Is it's everyone comes together. You hire and you surround yourselves as a director writer with crew and people that you want to inspire you, because you know that everything that you put out is not perfect. And I think that, yes, maybe he did make some decisions that, could have been different, woulda, shoulda. And I know that he's going to probably talk about it openly eventually down the road before he gets to his next film.
Commentary. And he loves physical media.
He does. He's big on physical media.
You better put a commentary on this. Okay?
Oh, it's going to be full of stuff. He's already promised that the Blu-ray is going to be chock full. But again, I dug this. I liked it. It's not perfect. It's like watch to a soft watch. It's not a super hard watch, but yeah. What about you? Where are you landed? I get you might be on soft either way.
No, it's not a soft watch. It's a watch. I think it's a good thriller. I just, I just question some of that found footage stuff and just the changes in the narrative. But yeah. But it's good. There's some good performances in it. I'm excited by the potential of it.
Yes.
And the twist, even if he had problems with the ending, the twist ending that we did get was good, but it was not as strong as it could have been, I think. I liked it,
because we will talk about how it's a direct twist from another movie. Well, let's get to it.
Okay. Well, so yeah, watches for both of us.
Yes.
Okay, so if you have not seen Shelby Oaks, we are going to spoil it quicker than you can say. YouTube movie reviews should be longer than 10 minutes.
Yes, they should be.
In 3, 2, 1. So, do you want to talk about the twist ending, or what I think is the twist ending? What do you think the twist ending was?
It's Paranormal Activity 2. All along, they were going after the other sister, who the plan was, who's our lead. It was all about her. So it was all kind of leading so that she could groom the devil child that ends up coming out of her sister.
Yes.
So there you go.
So,
there's Rosemary's Baby. We did not discuss because we didn't want to ruin that before. Rosemary's Baby is big, big, big.
I have to tell you, though, I was not expecting it to be Rosemary's Baby. I really was not.
I like that twist. I dug the twist, and I love the way it was shown. Like the way that it just, there's this great scene at the very end when this like demon, Paranormal Activity 2, it really is the exact same fucking twist as Paranormal Activity 2.
Yeah.
And so she comes up behind and puts the demon puts the hand on her shoulder with the eyes. It was so Paranormal Activity demon, but I kind of loved how it was its own thing, but you knew that that's what it was based off of. And I love that he was championing Paranormal Activity 2, because I do love those movies, and that one specifically.
Not only that, but at the end when she screams and her eyes are lighting up, what else does that remind you of? The Howling, Dee Wallace Stone, when she turns into the werewolf and she's like, ah! and her like eyes are like, or
Yes,
whatever.
yes.
Yeah. So just to set it up for the friends and listeners who are moving on to the spoiler section, but have decided, I'm going to wait for streaming. Basically what it turns out is that, we learn in the found footage prologue, which the reason why I think it doesn't work is because when you retread all that other footage, there was no reason to make us sit through it in the beginning. Like they could have given us the news clips, right? They
Well,
could
it
have
was like
given us-
Fantastic Four, right? It
Yeah,
was the same
exactly.
fucking thing. They did the
Jesus
same thing.
Christ.
They put
Yeah.
this little bit of film clip, like footage in the beginning.
Yeah. And so like, instead of the found footage, we could have gotten maybe glimpses of the found footage via the news television stuff, the documentary, and then when she discovers it, she starts pouring through the YouTube clips and looking at stuff or whatever. Like she hadn't done that before. But anyway,
I imagine he got that idea from many of these talking heads. I'm sure all these things were given to
Probably.
him, and
But
they
it was
made a
just-
decision.
it
Choices are
was just
made. We say.
annoying as fuck. It made a 95-minute movie feel slow and longer. So anyway, to set it up, the two sisters, so the one that is missing, who's part of this, like she's a paranormal hunter, she has a YouTube channel, she goes missing, they can't find her for 12 fucking years. There is a town called Shelby Oaks, which apparently, like, as soon as they go missing, it like dies, and then functionally now is a ghost town. I don't think any ghost towns like this exist in the US.
It took
because they
12
almost-
years to become a ghost town. Usually,
It
isn't it
almost
like
certainly would have just been revitalized or mowed down and turned into a data center and a mall. Like, come on, people. But anyway, so this long dead town, Shelby Oaks or whatever, nobody decides to look into homes, and then we find out that the sister has in fact gone missing, and she was kidnapped, and she was kidnapped by a killer. There's a huge MacGuffin about a man who might have been possessed by a demon who then kidnaps the sister. That's where she disappears. I think they attempt to impregnate her, and each time
they do eventually.
well, no, I think
impregnate
they
her.
did it several times because weren't they
Yeah.
burying like the dead babies
Yeah.
that weren't the Antichrist?
Yeah,
right?
there was some disturbing stuff that was all done off screen, but there's some really
Yes.
disturbing things that are kind of hinted at, right?
Yeah, so basically they
Definitely
treat her
horrific.
like an abused vessel to bring out this demon who we discover is an incubus, right?
12 years. Fuck, that is fucked up.
Terrible, right? But you say, so when she's doing the research, what she finds out is that this man might have been possessed. He gets released from the jail. The sister had gone to the jail when it was abandoned and apparently became haunted by what we think is this killer, right? The guy who shows up at the sister's doorstep and blows his own brains out. He's like, she finally let me go, and blows his brains out. And that's what starts this whole thing. That's what starts
Yep.
the jump to the normal film narrative. But what it really turns out is that the woman says, and this is what also was mind-numbingly crazy, was because don't give us documentary footage of the sister herself talking about these things. My sister gave up her kidney when she was, you know what I mean? Like all these personal things. And then later in the movie, we hear that, well, I never told her this, or I never told anybody, but we were visited by a demon in the window. And so her nightmares weren't really nightmares because I saw the demon too. And it's like, bitch, what are you doing? But what we come to find out is that we see a flashback scene where the sister actually sees the demon and the window cracks, just like the sister has been saying. But the twist is that although the sister gets kidnapped, the sister gets impregnated, the demon the whole time wanted her, not the other sister. Now, the reason why I think that's not as strong a twist ending is because it creates those conversations in your own head where you're kind of like, wow, that's really extra. That's like, banging the girl you really want's sister and getting her pregnant and then being like, but I love you all along. Let's forget about her. It's like demons apparently are quite complex when it comes to catching their prey. Or
It took Paranormal Activity 2 movies to get to that point, and this one did it all in one. So at least there's that.
Indeed. But there's also shades of like The Omen with like the hellhounds, and then Scott actually pointed
Oh, I
this out
love
to
that
me.
Hellhound ending. Oh, that was awesome. That
Where they all
reshot
ate her.
ending, yeah.
So, do you know what that ending signaled to Scooter, which I didn't pick up on until we were like driving home? When the hellhounds show up, that's why they didn't go after her. They were protecting her because she was the demon's wife to be, basically. But when the sister goes out the window, they were like, free food, and they ate her ass.
Yes.
That was a pretty graphic, like
that was a pretty cool kill.
Mass group feeding there.
It felt very Omen-esque again.
Yes,
There's so many little.
But I have to tell you, so she goes and she meets that old creepy lady, and when they go into the house, I don't know if that was supposed to be mold or it was supposed to be like the evil infecting the cottage. But I was like, "Ooh, girl, that woman must stink. That place must stink. She's disgusting." But I love the sense of dread that he sets up, where she just walks out of the kitchen, and then the woman is like, I don't know what's going to happen. So she picks up the knife and she puts it in her pocketbook, and then she walks into the living room, and the woman is on the far side of the room, and there's this big old carpet, and I was like, ooh, it's a trap. She gonna fall in that carpet or whatever. You know what I mean? But then lo and behold, under that carpet is the trap door, and that's where they're keeping like the sister or whatever.
And it's all this witchy cult, and the old lady in the house, she's all a witch, and I love that stuff. When she put the witch bit.
When she slammed the cellar door or whatever, I leaned over to Scott and I go, "Death by dawn, death by dawn,
Death by dawn, death by dawn."
She's gonna like jump up or whatever. But there's some good creepy moments, like when she appears to be moving really, when she appears to be moving quickly down the hallway every time she turns around and she's closer, and then you see the demon's like hot, sexy, muscled body. Sorry, folks, I'm sorry. One track mind here. It's always, and then I was like, oh, that's the Derek Mears I know. But the demon stuff, the glimpses are scary. So
yeah, it's like the devil of Tim Curry in The Legend, but in just black.
Yes,
like
with the
shadow
eyes or whatever.
Yeah, super creepy. I love that.
So it's funny. You talked about referencing or homaging all of those films or whatever. It's obvious to me. It might not be obvious to newer audiences, so they may get more mileage out of it. But that was the scariest thing about Blair Witch, was that these scenes of grainy camera work shot into darkness, and you're like, is something there?
Yeah.
Is something there? And so he does a lot of that here, where it's like, at one point I was kind of like, I don't even know what I'm looking at. It's not scaring me. You know what I mean? But then the eyes in the window, the glowing eyes, that's the scene that scared the fuck out of me from Amityville Horror, when like the eyes were in the window. But it's good. He's sort of like, rejiggering the things around in a new way. Yeah. It just didn't entirely work for me, primarily because of that protracted prologue. I like I said, the Blair Witch reared its ugly head way too much.
Yeah, interesting choice overall. I think so. Interesting.
Yeah. So, watch for me, watch for you. And we hope to see more from you, Mr. Stuckmann. Also, you can come on and guest and review if you would like.
Yes.
Please do so.
The rumors are that the movie did make back its exact budget, like $2.5 million or something. It made back in its opening weekend.
Oh, you know what? This is what I wanted to mention. So I'm watching this movie and I'm watching how wonderfully it's shot on a red camera, which I fucking hate. Sorry, but it really did look beautiful. So kudos to Andrew Baird, because, like I said, I don't know. I have a thing about red. But
it looked good.
It looked good. You know what it reminded me of? Another $3 million budget. It's one of my favorites. Prince of Darkness.
Oh, and the green goo, the whole Satan goo inside the house. I was going to say that. Yeah.
Indeed.
Totally.
Indeed. But Prince of Darkness was made for $3 million. This was made for $3 million, and it looks great, and it's really, really well done. And so I guess it just goes to show you not only if you have the right connections. Sorry, you know what I mean? Like if you have the right people behind you and you've got
Yeah.
actors that believe in this project and are willing to act their
Yeah.
asses off for you, you know, you're going to get a Prince of Darkness or you're going to get a Shelby Oaks. So, yeah, it's good. It's good. I'm happy with the potential.
Yes, me too. I still say you should go see this. Hopefully, maybe this will come out sometime next week, the Halloween weekend, Day of the Dead weekend. But if not, this is still out there. Go see it. It's really worth it. Go and support independent film. This is still an independent film. Neon picked this up, didn't put a whole lot of money into it. It is independent, so let's try to make it some money, right?
And actually, you know what? Stuckmann is a reviewer after our own hearts because he even says that. I watched his review of The Long Walk, and he said something towards the end of it that said something like, you know, if these kind of prestige films are what you want to see and not another Marvel, not another big action like, I don't know, Bad Boys or what have you, he's like, go to the theater and see these things. And so, you know, to our friends and listeners, please just go and see it. Go on a matinee when it's cheaper. If you have a Regal app, do it. It is worth it to see it on the big screen and to get on the ground floor of what I'm sure is going to be a new voice. Whether he chooses to do horror or a drama or another genre, go for it. I love it.
And we know that you as watchers like the independent horror thriller stuff, like between Companion and Bone Lake. Those are our biggest, most viewed, and this is very much in that realm, very independent-minded horror thriller. So yeah, get your butts out there. If you're listening to this right now, figure a way of watch this. Like we said, it is a mess. It is muddled, and some of that muddling mess might bother you, but just go in with it knowing that this is an independent film by heart, someone who put 6 years of his life into something, and here it is for us to enjoy.
Yeah, definitely. Which I forgot to mention, she's doing all the research and it's like attaches to family, right? And then I was like, oh, of course, she's going to get it, or the incubus is going to love her, you know? So whatever, predictable, right? But it is what it is.
Predictable, but fun.
Yeah, I hope Stuckmann keeps going because it was good. It was good.
Yeah, that ending, I really did like that stinger at the end with grabbing the shoulder. Yeah. That was great. Good time.
It also had Midsommar feel, and
totally.
And we forgot to mention the wood structures that looked very Blair Witch. So I was like, okay, maybe not start with the found footage because then when we see that stuff later, you know, this actually also brings up a good point too. If what you choose to do is to stream, I think the biggest way, if you wish to support the filmmakers, is to rent it when it's at that larger price. So once it hits like pay video on demand, and some, you know I'm as cheap as the next guy, and I'm like, oh, $20 to rent it or buy it, I'll just wait till it goes down. But that's where the money goes back to the creators in the studios, right?
And Neon usually drops theirs like A24 with like $15 their first week, sometimes even less.
We want you to get to the theaters first, folks. Prioritize that. But obviously, if if you're watching it on a monthly premiere on, say, a Netflix or a Prime, you're not really giving back to the creators. So PVOD that with your wallet, folks, okay?
Yep.
Randy does that. Randy streams a shit ton of movies and pays for it. So
good job, Randy.
Speaking of Randy, I'm going to jump into my plus first.
Yes, let's go. I'm excited for your plus.
Yeah, so speaking of Randy, he is a neighbor of mine, a friend of ours, part of the GGTMC community, and he moved out to California, retired, and he lives in the Golden State now. But he came over this weekend, and I went with him and Troy from Not a Bomb, his family, and then John N. from the and now for something a little bit different podcast, The Other John. Additionally, who else came along was Andy from Night of the Living podcast also came down this weekend. So Randy and Andy, the rhyming duo, and then Troy and his family, and then John and his wife. We all hung out Friday night. We did something called the Legends of the Fog, which I dubbed Legends of the basically what this is it's a very large installation of 5 move through Halloween haunted attractions. Yeah, and there's a haunted hayride as well, and then there's a little middle area that's got like snacks and beer and like fun stuff. And it's out in Aberdeen, Maryland, Legends of the Fog. Tickets are something like $50. But there is something called a fast pass. So instead of waiting in line to go to the attraction, you do the fast pass, which is kind of like Disney, you get in quicker. And so we all bought the fast pass and went through each of the attractions. Great production value, very scary. They really did that up. It was a wonderful, wonderful time. It's all outdoors. So it's fantastic. We had a blast. And then Saturday in the morning, we did the Alamo Dismember to Remember, which is their movie marathon. And so we were treated to 4 horror films, they were told or hinted to us as poems in the beginning by our presenter. First of all, there is a older gentleman who used to host the Dismember to Remember Alamo events. Is it called Dismember to Remember? I'm sorry.
I always thought it was called Dismember the Alamo.
Oh, it is called Dismember the Alamo. Yeah. Anywho, Dismember to Remember. I like Dismember to Remember. Anyway, sounds gayer, but yeah. So there was this like shockingly foxy older gentleman who used to do the presentation for Dismember the Alamo. Greg, if you're listening, hey. But he took a break this year, and so we were treated to a new foxy presenter named Will, and he did a really, really good job. They sort of like jokingly said he was fired at the end of the show, but then I was like, Greg, is he really fired? He's like, no, he's not fired. But anyway, so the 4 movies that we got, they were great. In order of sequence was 1991's Popcorn. This was directed by Mark Harrier and Alan Ormsby. This stars Jill Schoelen. Many will know her from Phantom of the Opera with Robert Englund, and then The Stepfather, which really brought her to fame. Tom Villard, I know everybody's going to know who that is if you grew up on 80s sitcom comedies like I did. Dee Wallace Stone is in that. We just mentioned her. And you'll recognize some of the other faces as well. Kelly Jo Minter, who showed up in Nightmare on Elm Street 5, I believe it was. But this one is fun. The tagline goes, "A master of disguise, deranged killer begins killing off the college students who are organizing a horror movie marathon in an abandoned theater." I had only seen parts of this on cable, and I did not realize that, he was a quote unquote master of disguise. So all of that was really a surprise to me with like the switching faces and stuff like that. But it's fun. It's goofy. Villard gives this crazy freaking performance that I can only describe as like Jim Carrey's Fire Marshal Bill meets, Freddy Krueger or whatever.
It's wild.
It's insane. So that was a blast. 91 minutes of fun. The next one was a film which I now realize is the horror splatter film that the kids in Serial Mom are watching in the John Waters film Serial Mom with Kathleen Turner. So we were treated to 1963's Blood Feast. This is directed by Herschel Gordon Lewis. It is, in fact, one of the first films to sort of coin splatter horror. It's very, very loopy, very, hippy dippy in some ways, but also really bloody and gory. We've got like fake animal organs on people's faces and just dripping blood everywhere. The logline goes, an Egyptian caterer kills various women in suburban Miami to use their body parts to revive a dormant Egyptian goddess, while an inept police detective, and that's putting it mildly, folks, tries to track him down. This one was a kick to watch with an audience because it's so low budget that there are just choices that are made that are head scratching. Like even in the 60s, I was like, yo, this is all you've got? Like, whoa. But it is hysterical. It's an hour and 7 minutes of just hystericalness. It's great. Have you ever seen, I know you've seen other Herschel Gordon Lewis's, but have you ever seen Blood Feast?
I've never seen a single Herschel Gordon Lewis ever.
Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah. My text, I was like, oh, I'm so jealous. I've never actually ever seen one because
it was
the
first time watch for a bunch of our our group, but it was you know, it's nice to see the history of horror.
Yeah, I need to get to it eventually. And that's the way I would want to watch it, is in a crowd instead of just at home.
Oh yeah, definitely. The next one was one of my favorites from 1992, Sleepwalkers. Speaking of Stephen King, this was an original script by Stephen King, directed by frequent Stephen King adapter Mick Garris. So Mick Garris has been behind like, first of all, he directed Critters 2, which was my jam. His wife is in it too. It's so weird that he put his wife in it and her boobies were like everywhere, but to each their own, Mick Garris, to each their own. But he's adapted like The Stand, a ton of other Stephen King properties. I don't want to give too much away of this because it is so off the wall and bonkers. I could tell that the people in the theater, this was their first time watch, because when a development happens between the mother and the son, our theater freaked out. It was kind of cool to watch. So yeah, Sleepwalkers, you guys have to get on this. It's so crazy and out there. And if you love cats, folks, this is definitely the movie to watch, because I think every single cat action or close up, like our audience was like, oh, so cute. And then when things happen to the cats, they're like, ah. So yeah, definitely check that out. And then our last movie was 1986's, people don't really talk about this film, I think, because there was another Trick or Treat, which is a Halloween anthology that came out later. But this one is called Trick or Treat, 1986, directed by Charles Martin Smith, who used to be an actor, by the way. He was in Never Cry Wolf. This was a Disney film. I believe he also was in, I want to say it was like 2010 maybe, or was that Bob Balaban? I don't know, they kind of look alike. Anyway, he directed this. This stars Mark Price, who played Skippy on Family Ties, if anybody remembers that, and then Tony Fields as like this crazy, you know, heavy metal rock guy. But it's very weird. It when you strip away all of the backmasking, which young audience or young friends and listeners, backmasking is when we had vinyl records. There was always this rumor that like you could play it backwards or roll it backwards and you would hear like satanic messages or whatever. So the film deals with that. This guy's rock metal idol sort of dies, and then he starts to summon his spirit while doing this backmasking thing. But if you strip away all the heavy metal and the backmasking references, what this really is just a male Carrie in some ways. But it works. It's so loopy and crazy. It works. Mark Price shows his butt in the beginning. If that's your thing, I loved it. It was great. Gene Simmons is in it. He's super cool in this as well. So yeah, check this one out. It's an underrated and underappreciated horror film. I know people in our circles love it, but it's got a great heavy metal soundtrack. It's got some great effects, and like I said, it's like Carrie for boys. I loved it. Yeah. Any thoughts about any of those films?
Yeah, I never seen Trick. When you said Trick or Treat, I was thinking the newer one
Anthology.
from
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I'd never seen that one. So that's one that I would be excited to see in an audience like that.
I think it's
Sleepwalkers.
streaming, it's good.
Sleepwalkers holds a close place in my heart because my mom took me and my sister to see it at a drive-in, and it was Lawnmower Man that opened for it. So it was Lawnmower Man
Nice.
and Sleepwalkers, and it was like probably 92, 93. So yeah, good memories with that.
Yeah, which is that double feature would be very, very interesting because, you know, Stephen King, it's kind of cool.
They used to do that they'd pull something that would be a year or two old that they could get for cheap and put it in front of those double features when I lived in the North Carolina back in the 90s. I saw a lot of stuff in the drive-through or the drive-in.
Love drive-in theaters. So cool. All right, on to your plus. What you got?
Just my normal ending up October. I have only saw a few this week. Like I said, it was really busy. But I want to touch on two that I saw re-releases theatrically, and then one that I saw first time watch finally that I'm really glad I got to watch. First off, let's start with Frankie Frico, Stephen Kostansky of the Astron 6 his follow-up to PG, Psycho Gorman. And also he did another film called Scared Shitless that's also just came out, which I'm ready to see. I'm excited for. If you like silly 80s themed comedy, horrors, like Kostanski's your guy. Like everything that he does with Astron 6 down to Manborg to this, I mean, it's between Kostansky and I can't remember the other guy who did the editor, but there's basically a group of them that do films together. Kostansky tends to lean more towards the humor, but Frankie Frico is basically a love letter to Ghoulie style, Cabbage Patch Kids, like, you know, animatronic puppet type of ghouls. Nice. And a little bit of 976 Evil as well. Basically, you have this yuppie played by Kostansky regular Connor Sweeney, who's been in a lot of their stuff, Astron 6 stuff. Again, it's just nothing. Adam Brooks is the other guy who's also did a director of theirs who directed Editor, and he also has a role in this. It's just silly, dumb, like making fun of the 80s, making fun of the fact that we've liked these movies, making fun of the fact that this movie even exists. He basically is this yuppie who's dating this girl who's definitely too good for him, and he's got everything a yuppie has, a cool car phone, a cool car. He's just the most bland yuppie who shares his romantic time holding hands with his wife like this instead of having sex. Oh, thank you, baby.
Oh my God.
You know what you imagine, these clean cut 80s yuppies with their sweaters and their polos. And she leaves and he calls this party line, call Frankie Frico. And him and his puppet buddies come to party with him. And then it becomes kind of like The Hangover. He doesn't remember what happened and all hell broke loose.
Jesus Christ.
And then they're kind of like little monsters. They come from this little world. And there's some other gangster guy from their world that's out looking for them. It is some silly, ridiculous, dumb fun. If you like Psycho Gorman and you like the stuff that these guys do from Manborg on Father's Day, etc., you're going to like this. Silly, dumb
it's on
fun.
AMC Plus.
Yep, Shudder, AMC Plus. Yeah, you should definitely check that out. The two theatrical releases that I want to talk about. First off is we got to the 20th anniversary of The Corpse Bride. My daughter loved it. She was Corpse Bride when she was really little for Halloween. So, of course, I was going to take her to that. And this remaster on the big screen is gorgeous. I saw it theatrically when it first came out with my little girl, who is now 23, and she was like 3 when it came out. But
they still love it.
Yes, it's so wonderful. It plays like this wonderful Hammer-esque, almost like old Universal monsters, black and white monster movie. The music isn't as memorable as I had hoped or wished. Some of them now in retrospect are kind of fun, but it's not as memorable as Nightmare Before Christmas or other musicals of the type. But it does have a very unique vibe, a very cool look to it. It's quick, it's brisk, it's fun. I love how the juxtaposition of the regular world being black and white and drab to the world of the dead being fun and colorful and full of like funky, fresh like music, and it's all like jazz and soul, where everything up top is all boring, operatic, like old musical style. Yes. So it's fun how that's all put together. And on the big screen, it was great. They had a special feature talking about how, I didn't realize this, but the actual mouths of the leads, the 3 leads, were robots. So their mouths were actually little tiny robots that were moving. I had no clue that it wasn't like that they were actually like moving them like you would, like normal Laika still does. But yeah, they literally were made out of little mini robots whose mouths moved. So that was kind of cool to learn. But that was an awesome experience. That was just me and my kids. We were the only ones in the theater. They didn't have school on Friday, and so we snuck to see that. It was a lot of fun. They were able to dance to the music and just, and it was gorgeous. Yay. The last thing I want to talk about was another wonderful re-release, and probably my favorite theatrical release of this October, and that would be the Paranorman 3D remaster. Good goddamn almighty. Yay. It is so beautiful. It is so wonderful. It looks so good. I love that movie. Talk about a movie made for horror nerds, a movie made for nerds who love movies. That's what that movie is. It is every type of horror movie all in one. And I just adore it. It gets better every time I see it. This time seeing it on the big screen with the 3D that is beautifully 4K remastered. Yes. just grabbed my heart and swept me right into it. God, was it gorgeous. And the fun little short in the beginning called Thrifting, which is done in that kind of Ninja Turtle new batch type of animation, or a little bit like the Spider-Man.
Takes a while getting used to it, but yeah.
But it's a very cute story. The little short fits, and they do their best to make the characters look. And Anna Kendrick comes back as the voice of the sister. Overall, it's a classic. And I don't usually pay for those extra Fandango ones, but I had to for this because I just love this movie so much. I've loved it since it first came out, and getting to take my little kids to see it. And it scared my daughter so much that when the zombies come out at first, it's just so loud and scary. She threw her glasses off into her lap. She was like, oh my gosh. The 3D is great. I mean, literally between this and the Nightmare on Elm Street 3 or Friday the 13th 3D, those are my two favorites that I'd seen in theaters. That and The Army of Darkness, hearing my buddy Brian Higgins giggle like a little girl. So just getting out and seeing these retro screenings to me has been everything. This year, I feel like we've gotten blessed with so many like retro screenings. It's kind of Jaws' fault, which great. I'm glad, as well as Jurassic Park. Both of those have been, seem to be pumping out money every summer. This Jaws re-release, I know, made a ton of money. And I think they just said, well, let's just throw a bunch of horror movies. So it's been fun. My hope is to get to Creature from the Black Lagoon tonight, but I don't know. Maybe I won't. We'll see. But it is in 3D.
Wait, what time is it? Are you making it? Are you going to make it?
We'll see. I mean, I have time. I'm just tired. I had to do all this work today, but I still might make it. But yeah, that's it for me.
Is Paranorman, is this the Lovecraftian one?
It is kind of, it's a little bit of everything, It's
a little bit of everything. Okay.
Yeah, it's this wonderful, wonderful love story to a horror film and loving horror. But basically, it's about a boy who can see dead people, and it's just kind of fun. Kind of follows that.
I see dead people. By the way, this is only the second stop motion film ever to be shot in 3D.
Yeah, God,
good
it's
on
gorgeous.
You for seeing it in 3D. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's out till the 25th through the 28th. So, you by the time this comes out, if you'd seen it, let me know in the comments if you got a chance to get out there and see it. But if you can, man, getting out to these 3D's not dead. It's really fun seeing it. And this looked so good. The same as that Friday the 13th 3 in 3D looked so good. And once it really hits, you're just like, wow.
Yeah.
Just good stuff.
Excellent. We should also mention Corpse Bride was actually co-written by John August, who wrote the Charlie's Angels movies. So, of course, hello. But also wrote The Nines and frequently collaborates with Tim Burton. And then, what was that? Freaky Fredo? What was the movie?
Frankie Frico.
Frankie Frico. That's directed by Steven Kostanski. And he remade Deathstalker, which should be coming out soon.
Yes, yeah.
So I think a bunch of us are excited to see that. Who knows? It might even end up.
It's going to be hilarious. It's going to be so damn funny.
It's gotta be. It's gotta be. All right, awesome. What are we doing next week? Actually, do we have another horror film, or what's happening?
I think the only major release next week is Begonia, as far as I know. I don't think anyone else is launching anything against Halloween.
I think that looks really good, though.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'd seen the original film, Save the Green Planet. So unless they veer very far, I already know what happens. Unless they can change. I mean, it could be different.
Yorgos is likely going to depart.
Yeah, and I hope he does.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. All right, so if you love us, again, subscribe, whatever format you're listening to, jump to the other format and subscribe. Subscribe on it all for us, okay? But you also if you love us, you'll love our other Podfathers, The Gentleman's Guide to Midnight Cinema with Samurai and Big Willie, and then Not a Bomb with Troy and Brad. I think they have a great Halloween surprise coming out. So definitely look out for Not a Bomb on Halloween. They have a incredible special guest. Cool get is all I'm going to say, but definitely check that out. I don't think I'm at liberty to say who the guest is and what they talked about, but it should be awesome, folks. And then the OG's Night of the Living podcast. Andy, I met him for the first time this weekend. They've been doing that for almost 20 years. And they
Crazy.
have a Patreon and they go to the Horror Hound. I'm like 20 years. Wow. I hope we can last that long. That's why you have to subscribe, folks. Okay. But you'll also love Wild Dream Podcast, Death by DVD, Raiders of the Podcast, Backlook Cinema Podcast with Zoe, and now for something a little bit different with the two Johns, one of whom was who I hung out with this weekend as well. Caliber 9 from Outer Space, Feminine Critique, Talk Without Rhythm with Goro, and Mike, parting thoughts.
Just as you are out there during the Halloween season, just be safe, be smart, continue to enjoy horror films both on the big screen and at home.
Yes. And as always, folks, be kind, be open, be vulnerable. That's where the art is, especially if demons are chasing you and your sister.